for a lot of your life, you've been berated for doing things differently.
Yeah.
Oh, you're doing it wrong, or you're not good enough, or you shouldn't do it that way, or so on and so forth.
Yeah.
But the reality is, it's like, well, and it's what I'm talking about in the talk today, it's about embracing difference, because it's difference that has changed the world, that's brought us.
Absolutely.
That's the innovation. It's thinking differently. If we did things the
Yeah.
same way that we always did them, we'd still be going around in a horse and cart.
100%.
So it's like embracing difference and different ways of thinking that will move the needle of industry.
Definitely. And I've heard that in a million different ways. It's about the edges.
Yeah.
The edges are the things that are the magical parts of the process and create innovation. Welcome to Soul Searching, the Soul Recruitment podcast, where we tackle all sorts of great topics in the areas of recruitment, job searching, mindset, technology, marketing, culture, and lots more. It's amazing what you'll pick up. Thanks for joining me. Welcome back, everyone. It's a fantastic episode of Soul Searching, the Soul Recruitment podcast. It's a very special one. We're coming at you from Talent X, the RCSA event in Sydney. It's episode 67, and I have the amazing Ashling Smith here with me. How are you, Ashling?
I'm well, thank you. Thank you so much for having me, Saul. That's great
Thank
to be
you
here
very
with you
much
today.
for coming, and I'm very much looking forward to hearing you speak at the event very, very soon. So for everyone, we're getting a little sneak peek into what Ashling's going to be talking about very soon on the big stage. But the topic for today is unlocking neurodiverse potential, how to recruit and manage neurodivergent talent effectively. For anyone who doesn't know who Ashling is, she is the Neurodiversity Trainer of the Year, a 40 under 40 Business Elite Award winner, and a Stevie Award winner as a social change maker in disability. Ashling is on a mission to break the bias around neurodiversity, autism, and ADHD in the workplace. With over a decade of experience in human psychology, Ashling partners with global organizations and governments to rewrite policies and implement meaningful change through the development of neuro-inclusion strategies, which empower employees, managers, and teams to thrive together. Drawing from her lived experience as a late-diagnosed autistic woman with ADHD and the mother of a neurodivergent child, Ashling's work is both personal and transformative. Her engaging presentations challenge traditional thinking, offering audiences actionable insights on how to unlock productivity, enhance communication, and create workplaces where neurodivergent employees don't just fit in, they stand out and excel. So welcome to the show.
And that's probably the longest intro you've ever had to read for somebody.
But it's such a great intro, so I had to put it in.
Thank you. It's like, I think I could have shortened it down a little bit.
I love it. And it gives so much context to what you've been doing as well.
Yes, thank you.
For everybody who doesn't know you, because obviously I've done some research.
Yes.
Tell us a bit about who you are and why you are so passionate about creating change in the space.
Oh, okay. Well, there were some clues in the intro. So my gorgeous son, Daniel, was diagnosed with autism and ADHD when he was 2.5. So he was in childcare at the time. Childcare worker says to me, I'd like to have a chat, would sit down. So myself and my husband sat down, had a chat. She said she was thinking that he was showing signs of autism. So he was so young, 2.5. So
of interest, what are those signs at 2.5?
He had a broken leg. And so suddenly he was slowed down. Okay, so he was like typical toddler running around. Right. He was never stopped. He was busy. But I think the broken leg gave her the opportunity to spend time with him in a more, and so understanding all of the nuances of his behavior, there were specific things that stood out. So look, I'm no child psychologist or pediatrician, so I just thought, okay, great. He could be a genius. That was my initial thoughts. Good. And I'm like, how can I nurture him and support him to reach his full potential? And that's the initial thoughts that came to me. And I was so grateful to know so early in life. So I'm Irish, obviously, but so grateful that I live here in Australia because we were able to receive NDIS funding and we were able to get him speech therapy and occupational therapy and psychology and play support and loads of different things that I didn't even know were available. And as his mum, I went to all of the appointments with him and I started to learn a lot about myself. I was like, oh, that's interesting. And just before he started primary school, he got his, they say, the official diagnosis. So he went through like all of the testing that you do to get the official diagnosis, which is you really can't give that to a child that young. There are suspicions like at 2, 3, 4, but until they're like 6, it's hard to, you have to go through very rigorous testing, which he did. And as he was going through that, I said to it was a clinical psychologist at ACU, Australian Catholic University, that was doing it. And I just said, well, have you ever done a mother and son as a matter of interest? Because I've been doing years of research and how can I support and what can I do? And I could see that it was genetic and I wanted to be able to know, like, did this come from me? Because I started to look at my family and I started to think, gosh, yeah, there's definitely elements. And you're really describing me to me.
Yeah, wow.
And so they did the testing with me and they came and they're like, yes, you have ADHD. I have no idea how you were never tested for it before. It was never flagged. But we also tested you for autism and you have autism. And I was a bit floored with that specifically, which I'm a bit ashamed to say, but I guess it makes sense now. But, you know, it really did take me off guard because I thought, yeah, ADHD makes sense. But to me, autism was not me. But the more that I've learned, the more that I've grown, the more that I've researched, and obviously the work that I do, we carry biases and we carry like an idea of what something should look like. And autism should look like this and it should behave like this. And I was like, but I'm not a genius or I'm not really good with all of these things. Maybe I am in some strange way, but I guess what I do and the level at which I do the things that I do is tendencies for autism. And when I was in the workplace, I struggled. So the reflection after receiving the diagnosis was very interesting because being able to be like, look back on your life and think, oh, okay, I can see where this showed up.
Interesting. But you know what fascinates me as well is the modern world loves to do more study and create more labels for everything. And I'm not a big labels person. Like I understand that we have to find categories to help us see the world and understand the world. But as you said, there's such an extreme spectrum in everything that you can't really just label things. And because labeling has a lot of preconceived ideas as well.
Yeah, I do get that a lot. A lot of people are very anti the label idea. And I like to say that's fair enough. And everyone's entitled to their opinion as well. But the thing about getting a diagnosis, and I think it's the validation of the diagnosis when you look at how they've tested you, and the testing is rigorous and it's really expensive as well.
Oh, okay.
So there's a couple of different things. So I guess recently going through it is you really going through your life and you're identifying the worst times, the worst experiences that you've had and what that looked like and how you felt and what were your reactions and so on and so forth. And then there's cognitive and there's different things like that. By being able to look at the paper, it gives you an idea, an insight into yourself. And then when you get to understand we like to call it neurotype as opposed to a condition or a deficit. I like to call it a neurotype. And when you understand what that is, you're like, okay, oh yeah, I do get triggered by loud noises or by smells or by bright lights sometimes, or sometimes crowds are too much for me. So as opposed to being a label that you can take or leave as you wish, it gives you an understanding about who you are and how you do things. And I think that's very important.
That makes a lot of sense. It's almost like it's a forced journey into self-awareness.
Yeah, it is.
Self-reflection.
If you
sometimes you don't go do that.
Yeah, no, of course not. And for a lot of your life, you've been berated for doing things differently. Oh, you're doing it wrong, or you're not good enough, or you shouldn't do it that way, or so on and so forth. But the reality is it's like, well, and it's what I'm talking about in the talk today, it's about embracing difference because it's difference that has changed the world, that's brought us. Absolutely. That's the innovation. It's thinking differently. If we did things the same way that we always did them, we'd still be going around in a horse and cart.
100%.
So it's like embracing difference and different ways of thinking that will move the needle of industry.
Definitely. And I've heard that in a million different ways. It's about the edges.
Yeah.
The edges are the things that are the magical parts of the process and create innovation.
Yes, that's right. And sometimes like you might get then people who are socially difficult because, as I like to say, with the good comes the bad. All right. So you have this innate genius in many different ways, people who can solve problems or see things from a completely different perspective. And we quite often have a very strong sense of like obsession with a particular topic.
Yep.
Stereotypically, you might be trains or aliens or dinosaurs, but it goes beyond that.
Yep.
And as adults, it becomes generally what we end up working in, which is very helpful for an employer.
Absolutely.
If somebody's obsessed with your topic to the point that they're not doing it as a job, they're doing it as a passion.
Yes.
And that, again, it's not about the label, but again, when you have the label, you understand your needs. And what I advocate for is to support the individual to bring their brilliance to the table.
Love that.
Because if you're experiencing bullying or negativity, or if you're in a climate that you can't navigate, if it's not, as we like to say, neuro-inclusive or neuro-affirming, and affirming, it just kind of, I like to use a phrase, I say micro compliments, giving people compliments on the stuff that they do so they recognize it and that they're like, oh, that is good, because most of the time they get berated for the things that they do badly. So when you create an environment where people are celebrated, then it's magic happens after that.
And you've mentioned that neurodivergent individuals are some of the most innovative, focused, and resilient talent out there.
Yeah.
And they're being overlooked in the hiring process.
Yeah.
So I want to get into hiring, and I also want to get into management.
Okay.
But let's talk about hiring. Where do you see the gap there?
Oh, well, there's a number of different areas that the gap falls into. Firstly, I suppose it's the job application process can be arduous.
Yes.
We are not great at bigging ourselves up.
Right.
Now, you might not think that by my bio, but I had somebody else write that for me.
Like ChatGPT.
But some of like those amazing skills and talents, we're like, yeah, I can just do it.
Gotcha.
I could just do it. Like, oh, is that a big deal?
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
no.
It's almost like you don't even know that it's a big deal. Because for you, it's just like normal.
Yeah. And where we like might struggle with some of the things that other people find normal. Yeah. And they can sometimes be more visually apparent. And so when we present, we may not speak as a typical candidate. Now, don't forget, I spent 35 years of my life not knowing that I was neurodivergent. So being a chameleon, essentially fitting into molds, taking courses to be a better communicator and to try and be neurotypical, essentially.
Yeah.
But the relief when I unmask and I can just be like, oh, it's great, it's lovely, from a mental health perspective. So going back to why are we not picking them up? There's a 34% unemployment rate with autistic people.
What?
And there is a national autism strategy to increase the employment rate and to increase the support for autistic people to get into employment. Now, that's just autism, but there's also, when we're looking at neurotypes, ADHD, dyslexia, many other different, like there's
are they
so
all
many.
on the same spectrum in a way, or
No. The spectrum is not linear. It's cyclical. Circle.
Okay.
And it shows up in different ways for different people depending on the triggers. I like to call it the pokey stick moments.
Okay.
How many times you've been poked with a stick all day long, from your sleep, from you got up in the morning, from you spilled your coffee, you tripped over the thing.
Nice.
So as well as what's going on in your mind. So we have to try and really support ourselves. And this is why I like the micro compliments, because it's about supporting people to see the best in themselves, which people quite often don't do.
Yeah. And it kind of takes a step back and just takes a bit of a zooming out look at what's been happening and wider perspective, so you don't get so caught up in your own little world, and which can be obsessive sometimes. Yeah. And I'm obsessive as well, so who knows?
It's not even that, because we have an interest-based nervous system.
Yeah.
So we might be really, really, really good at something, but terrible at something else. Like, so with ADHD, executive functioning can be very difficult. So executive functioning is some of those, you might say, basic admin tasks.
Yes.
And they can be, people would say, just do it.
Yeah.
Like, I'm actually stuck. I feel like I'm in quicksand and I can't do, like, there's certain tasks that I just can't do.
Is it because it's boring, or because it's just...
I don't know. It's like when I'm running training sessions in organizations, if we were to say like our executive functioning department in our brain, it's like an executive board.
Right.
let's just think if we were to visualize for those listening to the pod, it's like the inside out team, right?
Yeah.
And sometimes some of them just go on strike.
Yeah.
They just stop working. They're just like, no, not today.
Yeah.
No, I don't like him. I'm not going to do that job. Or, oh, I remember they were saying bad things about you. No, we're not going to do that for them. And it really puts you in that position where you're stuck and you can't get the thing done. And it seems like you're being defiant or belligerent. You're not. It's just difficult. So I suppose that brings into the management, creating a supportive environment as a manager, as co-workers, supporting each other, championing each other, like knowing people's needs. And you don't just have to be neurodivergent to have needs.
Oh, of course.
Especially after COVID, now we're getting back into more time, spending more time in the office. It's a big shift for a lot of people.
And as a recruiter, I'm hearing more focus on mental health.
Yeah.
More than ever before.
Yeah.
Just in general.
It's very interesting. And one of the things that I introduce to the team was in my presentation is a thing called a manual of me, where you will get all of your employees, not just the neurodivergent ones, because it's not fair to segregate, because we don't ever want to create an us and them culture in the workplace. We want it just to be, we're all in it together and we all bring different skills and talents to the table. And the manual of me gives you an opportunity to have insights into challenges that people have, the things that they're really good at, like areas that they might like to, that they could help other people in, or areas that they might like help from other people in, and how they like to communicate.
That's why it's a team.
I know.
That's the whole point of a team.
And we do forget that sometimes. And I just go back to the recruitment, because I've got ADHD. I'll do this. I'll jump from topic to topic. It'll be difficult for anyone catching up on listening to the pod. Sorry, guys.
You're in for a ride today.
You are. It's a bumpy one. But with the recruitment, I was saying about we don't always see our innate skills, but also language can be very ambiguous. And we don't mind read very well. We don't read between the lines. People would often say, read the room. What? Like, what do you mean read the room? Like, what am I supposed to be understanding that, like, it's just not, there are certain social cues, essentially, that not all, but some. As I said, for people with ADHD, executive functioning. So like when you have to fill in multiple forms, multiple ways, and log into portals, and then you forget your login ID, and then what was my password? Then you have to do like a 10-letter password that's all letters and shapes and everything.
Functional authentication and
And then we're looking then, if we were to think about people who are dyslexic.
Sure.
And people who are dyslexic then have their own set of challenges and amazing strengths. So we bring strengths and challenges to the table that differ, but the table was set for neurotypical people, we like to say. It wasn't set for the neurodivergent.
And even just hearing what you mentioned, those skills might be extremely effective in a user experience point of view, because all of us get extremely frustrated with all these little steps.
Oh, yeah.
So if you guys can pick that up really quickly and help us make it a better experience.
How good would it be? I mean, because we have a saying in our community, nothing about us without us.
I like that.
So how good would it be if there was one of us with multiple neurotypes? Because there's quite a lot who would have autism and ADHD crossover neurotypes, right? In like every role, so that we can see how that impacts. Because 1 in 5 people are neurodivergent.
Wow, is it right? 1 in 5.
As we say,
undiagnosed probably as well.
It accounts for a lot of undiagnosed people. It accounts for a lot of countries where people will just never get diagnosed. So the diagnostic process is too difficult. It's very expensive, harrowing. Like for me, ADHD, you need to be diagnosed by a psychiatrist in order to get medication. And I was diagnosed by the clinical psychologist originally. And I just kind of went with my stuff, because I had been doing many years of meditation and hypnotherapy and like doing all the holistic stuff. And it was working great for me. Well, I didn't know any different, but it was great. It was quieting to an extent the monkey mind. But as we go through the seasons of life, there's always stuff. Like there's different stuff that we are going through and we're carrying with us and that we're dealing with. So sometimes it's more difficult than others. When my son, he was about in his 2nd year in school, I decided to try him on medication then. Or maybe his 2nd or 3rd year or halfway through, I just thought, okay, let's give it a go now. I wanted him to go without medication for a while, see how that went, how is he learning? And at the same time, I said, well, in for penny, in for pound, I'll do it too. So we'll be both on our medication journeys together. Well, everything changed in my life. Everything. The clarity, the ability to do things, to finish projects. Like I have a graveyard of unfinished projects. I've like even been tapping into that graveyard recently. It's very interesting to see the difference that medication can make and how you can actually really, like the benefits that you get from it. So again, with the labels, it is beneficial in that regard because it supports you to support yourself, but you only get medication for ADHD.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, I just want to get a bit tactical.
Okay.
So, for example, we've discussed how generally there are gaps in the recruitment process. What would be an example of a step in the recruitment process that would be definitely potentially culling neurodivergent people out when it should?
Oh, that's a really good question. Like the ads at the first language that you're putting in, because if we don't tick all the boxes, we'll be saying that job's not for us. And a lot of job ads might just say, must be a great communicator or looking for a rock star.
Yeah. Like, so you would say, I need 10 out of 10 or I won't even apply.
Yeah, but like you just feel like you can't, I'm not going to, that's not, it's too hard. We also would have a lot of workplace trauma where we've had jobs before and we weren't accepted. So we know, and there's such a huge culture around the building the inclusive workplace now. So thankfully, we're really driving forward in that way, which is wonderful. But with that, people will get pickier and be like, I don't want to go back to a trauma situation. I do want to go to a workplace that I will be recognized and supported. So for some time in my career, I worked for organizations that recruited and placed autistic people specifically into employment in organizations. And I would work as a neurodiversity consultant within the organization to support them there.
Right.
So that was a one way in. The way that I look at it from a total recruitment, there's no reason why everyone can't be doing that. It's changing some of the things, or just adding a few things onto your ads in the first place to say, we are neuro-affirming. We are neuro-inclusive. We welcome applications from neurodivergent individuals. And please text, call, or email as preferred.
Love it.
Because then when you get to the interview process, you see, we're not even getting past the screening. And I did a social experiment in the way up to this to get a grasp on what it would be like if I was very upfront with I'm autistic to see what will come back. Not having the qualifications can be a big one. Because sometimes we hyper-focus on a topic and we would know it as good as a professor. But we don't have a qualification in it. We've just done outside study.
You've done your own self-study.
So that's not recognized because you're looking for a degree.
Interesting.
What else? Like,
what about the interview process?
Like, the interview, yes.
Being in the interview with a panel or with one manager, how does that dynamic work?
One of my tips is if there's someone neurodivergent in your organization, invite them into the interview to support, because they'll know. I have 3 tips. I'll give them to you because they're very good for the interview itself. The first one is to give the questions in advance. Because why not? A lot of places are doing it. Not everyone. It gives everybody the same chance. It gives everyone a chance to prepare. And it's how they answer the questions that really makes a difference. But it's being caught, again, to the executive functioning or malfunctioning sometimes as it is, that C-level executive might go on strike the moment you need to answer that question and your working memory is gone. And you're like panicking and you're sweating. And which
has no reflection on how you would be in the role when you were working.
But also, some of us can be very tactical. Can I just do it? I can't explain how I do it. Can I just do it and I'll show you how I do it? So like even depending on the role, because obviously there's so many roles, but if it is something that somebody can show, does it need to be explained if you know how to do it? Because again, it's the words, it's the language. Language can be a huge barrier.
That's right.
It can open doors and it can close them. But do you need to be a great linguist, or do you just need to be able to do a great job doing what you're doing?
That's right. Some of the most amazing artists, songwriters, singers, musicians probably don't read music, weren't trained, etc., etc.
So does it make them less than a Mozart?
Less of a genius? Definitely not.
So, so that's the recruitment.
Gotcha. And you mentioned
Or
three tips. I think, what was the third one?
Third tip is at the very end of the interview, and this came from an amazing woman in Melbourne, Sherry Conlon is her name. She runs the most neuro-inclusive company, I would probably say, in the world. She's autistic herself, and she doesn't specifically, but gives more opportunities to neurodivergent people to apply for jobs. Right. And she also gives her employees the opportunity to get tested and pays for it if they want to. Yes. So that's a huge thing, as well as many other things that they do. But I heard this from her, was that she asks people in an interview if there's any questions they'd like to redo.
Oh, wow.
At the end. Because the way you warm up into it. And then by the end, you're kind of, oh, geez, I wish I didn't say that.
I've never heard that before. I love
How good is that?
I love that.
Now that you feel more comfortable, because the start is terrible. Oh, and the second one, did I say 3 and I'm doing 4?
No, this is the 4th one. Yeah.
Let somebody, give them fidgets, like we're built for movement, which is why we're fidgety and stuff. And to be sitting in an interview chair, oh my God, it's like horrendous. And you're not going to think very well. Yeah. Would you be the kind of fella now that if you're on the phone, you might walk around 100%. Pacing?
As soon as the phone call lasts more than 20 seconds, I'm up on my feet, walking around the room, throwing a ball, whatever.
Yeah,
I cannot just sit still.
Not saying that you're neurodivergent, but I mean, a lot of people do. It helps them to focus and think by doing another activity. That's very much the case for neurodivergent individuals. So I say, why the hell not? Let them walk around the room. Have a box of fidget toys or something if you want to grab one of those, but let them say who they are in the first place. If you are neurodivergent, maybe they don't know, whatever. Do you feel more comfortable walking around? That's fine. Yeah. It's about creating inclusivity, not exclusivity.
Love
we want to include people, not exclude
100%.
them.
Love that. Fascinating. And I want to talk a bit about management. We've talked a bit about the hiring process. Obviously, we can't get into everything, but
no, it's so much. There's so much.
Do it again. Obviously, management is another whole ballgame because the team has to be on board. The manager has to be on board. The management has to be on board. Give us some insights into that.
It's the first step to my process. And like I say, I worked in many organizations with individuals who've been placed in. And quite often, it's quite not always, now I'm definitely not saying this is not blanket, but there's an us and them policy. Oh, do you know, the autistics, them lads are great. They're great at the programming and they're great with all of the numbers in whatever specific area they're in. And quite often, it can be like that. But we don't want to create an us and them.
Right.
Because there's already neurodivergent individuals working in the business without being anything else, right? So what we want to do is be able to support all individuals to understand and recognize differences, to remove biases, like we were talking about, the need for the label, or, oh, you don't really look autistic, or, oh, sure, you must only be a little bit on the spectrum. These kind of things, they don't help anybody. So what we want to do is kind of create that broad understanding of the opportunities, the talents, create excitement almost. I do my trainings in a way that I kind of want to make neurotypical people feel like they were neurodivergent by the end of their life. So it's like if I can achieve that and make the neurodivergent individuals feel seen and empowered to be themselves.
Focus on their strengths rather than the strengths of the others.
Well, you see, what happens is that they're often masking. So they're trying to be, and this is the mental health load side of things. So you're masking, you're trying to be like somebody else. You're trying to be like the other people that you think. And I did that for years. I'd be like, who's the coolest person in the room? Right. How do they walk and talk and dress and look? And okay, right. And that's how I got through school. And we don't all I verge towards like being cool. Some people are like, that's far too hard. It is hard. But
she's wearing a very, very cool outfit today as well, I must add.
But it's about your individuality. And I think I lost that very much because didn't know. Now I'm trying to reclaim it as an adult, which is fun. And it is good because I want to do that for my son, for his generation to come through and be like, it's okay to be me. And I don't have to mask and I don't have to put on a facade to pretend to be somebody else.
And that's actually a really interesting point is when a candidate or an applicant that is neurodivergent moves through the process, if they just open the conversation with that, oh, by the way, I'm this or I'm that or I'm that, so this is what you might find, that already breaks down barriers.
Does. But it's about knowing, it's about feeling safe. Quite often we won't disclose because we feel as though we won't get the opportunity for management positions, for leadership to move up through the ranks.
Interesting.
So a lot of
even
people...
after you've proved yourself?
Well, it just depends on the organization, right? And it depends. We're very good at reading the room without reading the room. We're very good at reading people internally and seeing, like, watching patterns. We're really good at seeing patterns and be like, okay, this is how I can see the way people are getting promotions in this place, or I know the way we can see. And it's like
hacking the system.
If I don't fit that mold, then I won't, because nobody else has. Nobody else is, right? Like, so
sense.
It's being in that kind of a way that you understand who people are, what they need, and you're creating an environment where they're all safe. And they're happy to be themselves. So that starts with the awareness. And the next is buddying. Like I say, for the onboarding process, you already have people in your organization who are neurodivergent, and they've been through, they know the hidden agenda in your organization. They know the unwritten rules, the unspoken nuances that are assumed to be known, but are never spoken about. Like those things, we don't get them. They've maybe had to find them out the hard way. And if you're onboarding somebody, how good to be able to have a buddy that's like, okay, you got to look out for this. They do this here, they do that. Sometimes people assume, oh, well, you've worked in corporate before, so you know the way it goes.
Helping them read the room in a way.
Well, what way does it go? This is the way things go. It's the same as, I don't know, you need to use the words. Again, language. Language is really important because we're not mind readers, and you need to communicate with intent and use context.
Yes, I was about to say, language is one thing, but interpretation is another. So context is important.
And check for interpretation. When I run a trip, I'm like, do you understand? Are we all on the same page here? And it's like, you need to feel safe to say no as well. No, I don't understand. And that it's okay to ask questions, because we will ask questions until we find it, just the penny drops and we've got clarity. Because we kind of think on this like global scale, and we want to know like how it's connected to the universe and how it's connected to the values and the mission of the company. So what part is this cog in the wheel of the overall purpose of the company?
Interesting.
And so I'll know, because it gives us a sense of purpose and a sense of, and then we're in.
That's where the drive and the
drive
comes from.
The obsession comes from, because, and it's connecting those dots. And I can't say it's the same for everyone, but it's a very strong trait. Very, very strong.
Fascinating.
Yeah.
Wow. Amazing. And so if we were to give managers 2 or 3 tips on how to tactically either build a culture or build a team that welcomes neurodivergence, or to just manage neurodivergent stuff, what would you say?
Well, firstly, is always to celebrate the awareness days. We've got in October.
That's the first place.
And just make a decision, write it into your culture, your company culture. We are inclusive. We are inclusive of all disabilities, visible and invisible. Okay, so invisible disabilities encompass neurodivergent, but also chronic illness. We can't just say, okay, well, we're going to do a big movement towards just autism and ADHD, but we'll forget about everyone else.
That's right.
You know,
or any other mental health issues or whatever.
No, because it all feeds, and it does feed into well-being. Because the better we feel, the less sick days, the less burnout we have. And it's identifying, being a good manager, just being on a level with your employees. How are you going? That everything starts off with every meeting. How are you feeling, or how are you really feeling? Is everything going okay for you? Please let these catch-ups, these one-on-ones be a chance to be
a safe space, and let's really tell me how it's going.
Because trust is so important. And creating that trust. And if we feel that you have our back and you're out to champion us and we trust you, we'll go to the ends of the earth for you. But if you break the trust,
it's very difficult to replenish.
It's gone. And that can be broken by a throwaway comment. It can be broken by behavior. It can be broken by, because you said something once, and I won't forget that you said that. And then
it showed me how do you really feel.
You were lying. So it's being authentic. So if you can be an authentic manager and learn to be inclusive and supportive, and it'll go a long way.
Any other tips?
Get everybody on board. Remove the biases. Call out microaggressions if you hear them in the workplace. Like things like, oh, you don't look autistic, or, oh, sure, we're all a bit ADHD nowadays. Just call that stuff out, because it doesn't help anyone, because it diminishes what people are feeling who actually have it, who are trying to live through life with those conditions every day with those neurotypes. So that can be difficult. What else? Then
about like team building,
having difficult conversations. Nothing particular, because we're not always very social. Sometimes, yes. sometimes no. So it's going to be different for any given team. Maybe doing, not just going to the pub, maybe it could be escape rooms.
Yeah.
And like you're all using different talents, different activities, that it's not just the usual. Yeah. And then you go to the pub afterwards if you want. So if you don't want to go, you can go home.
Love it.
And that's fine. Because those kind of environments, noisy, doesn't suit everyone.
True.
This is 1 in 5 of the population. It's very hard to say we're all like this.
Yeah.
Because if you've met one, you've met one. The next one, I suppose, tip would be to have that manual of me, understand what accommodations people need to support them to be the best. It could be, if you're neurodivergent and you're a parent, your children are most likely neurodivergent. So you might need time in the afternoons or in the mornings sometimes to bring them to their appointments. And just having that flexibility. One thing for me, when I'm in creative mode, I'm like working until 3 o'clock in the morning. Yep. And my most productive is when I put my son to bed, and then between 10 p.m. and 3 a.m., I'm on fire.
Wow.
And I've worked all day because during the day I'm doing presentations or I'm, running trainings or meeting clients. And I do the mum stuff and I get him to bed and then I'm like, okay, right. I have to, because you can't be disturbed when you're in creative flow.
That's right.
So you need to. So like that can be a very difficult thing for employees, because if we get disturbed, then we're thrown off kilter. Yep. So for the individuals, we need to know what our kind of circadian rhythms are. I don't recommend working until 3 a.m.
I used to be like that, and now I've kind of trained myself to go the other way. I'm up really early, and that's my productive time.
Well, there you go. You find it in the different ways, but
Fascinating. And now in terms of examples, I would love to hear a case study or two, because you've obviously worked in this space for so long and you've seen it all, you've consulted, you've spoken about it. I'd love a case study or two of when you really see cooperation, results, and effectiveness within a team that's so beautifully connected, and all the things we've just been speaking about are working so beautifully together and humming.
Yeah, well, this isn't one that I worked in, but as I mentioned before, the Digital Picnic, and this is a neurodivergent-led company. Mm-hmm. So I've done like research on them and just why it's effective, because obviously I'm always researching like who else is doing well, what's been done, so that I can implement that into the work that I do with my clients. And I work with a lot of big clients. Sometimes in smaller companies, it's easier to infiltrate because you put the foot down and said, this is company culture.
Yep.
So she works with the circadian rhythms of her team. That's one thing, as I mentioned. She also works with, I think, a very flexi schedule in and out of the office. So that people really kind of get to do the best that they can. And she finds that people are more willing to come into the office because they want to. They have hot and cold zones. So if you're in, I think I might be getting this backwards because I quite often do. If you're in the hot zone, you're like in that hyper focus. Don't disturb me.
It's the flow state.
In the flow, there's no noise in this area. Yeah. It's just everyone's here to work hard and like don't drop a pin. And then in the cold zone, it's kind of like I'm a bit more open. Come in, I'm doing emails, whatever, come in and tap me on the shoulder if you want my support or help or something. Because when you're derailed, when you're taken off track, when you're doing something, that's a lot of time wasted.
I think that could be good for everybody to have a little red or green sign on your desk to say hot zone, cold zone, don't bother me.
There is a company now that's doing these clip-on neons that you can plug onto your laptop that you can put little messages onto them.
Okay.
What else? Okay, there's a few things. Now, I'll give you an example of a company that I'm working with at the moment, and they're amazing. And they just like are blowing me away because they've done a lot of work already, but they're like, we need to do more. So they've brought me in to like really get to the root cause. And that's what I say, like the root cause, because you can cut off a weed by its neck, but the root is still there. And it's not that it's a weed in the culture. It's just that nobody knows. Like this isn't
people
something.
Just don't understand it.
They don't understand it. There's more awareness now. So I say, don't berate yourselves. It's okay. But it's about if you know and you're still not doing it, then that's not great.
100%.
So let's create the culture. And I find that anyone that I work with to do the training, they're like, oh my God, this is so empowering. They really want to implement the things. And I just say, call me, just give me a buzz, send me an email if I can support you in some little way to help your team. If you've got a niggling challenge, like it'll take 5 minutes and we can talk through it. Because sometimes you just need to brainstorm through those things. But so this company, there is a percentage within the company of people who have identified. We've done surveys. We've also found what's triggering. So we know. So you have to ask the question, not assume.
Yeah.
We just ask what's triggering. Okay. And then from lived experience, will it work for you? That this will be different. Now, everyone's going to be different. But so you're not going to fit everybody either, because you can't make a million different changes. But it's like, what patterns are we seeing here? How are we creating this? Because currently it's a $47 million problem.
Wow.
So the solution is not going to cost that much.
Wow. And so what does that actually mean, a $47 million
We're talking about loss of productivity.
Really? Wow. It's been measured to that.
Well, I did the calculations based on what I could see.
Whoa.
But it's understanding that it's not just a fluffy thing. It's not just, mental health well-being, which is not fluffy. Like, don't get me wrong, because I'm a huge advocate for that because of my own mental health for so long and understanding the impact of masking and everything else. However, and also it's a productivity. But people, if you don't feel safe, if you don't feel seen, if management, so a lot of it does come back to management, managers, and it's being inclusive. Yeah. And when you step into that management, I often say, you don't have to have all the answers. You don't have to pretend like you know everything. Yeah. It's really great practice to be able to, if somebody asks you a question and you're like, you know what, I don't know, let's find the answer together.
No. And you know what? This sounds so amazing to me. Even just what's going through my mind is, wouldn't it be amazing for any culture,
for everyone,
yes, to just have such openness in communication and building a culture that's so collaborative that anybody can come forward and say, this is what triggers me, this is what I need, et cetera, to do my job effectively. That's amazing, number one. But number two, for teammates to actually learn from each other, because you must have that many incredible skills. And I say you, but I just mean neurodivergent talent. Must have that many amazing skills and techniques and systems that we could benefit from. Yeah. That they're too afraid to share.
Yeah. So don't look at what we can't do.
Yeah.
Just look at what we can do and keep us doing that.
Exactly.
And don't berate us for, you didn't file your paperwork. Oh, can Mary not do it?
Because you're creating this wall.
Mary loves paperwork. Can she not do it? And I'll just tell her what to do. It's just like, can we make teams where we focus on the strengths and the talents?
100%.
Which again goes back to the recruitment, because if we are not, it's like, no, I can't do those things. So it's like looking at what's the purpose of the role?
Yeah.
Like, why are we hiring this person? What problem do we want them to solve?
Yeah.
And then looking at the candidate through, how are they going to, what kind of a person with what kind of skills are going to best solve that problem?
Yeah.
Is it going to be a rock star, or is it going to be a great communicator,
100%.
or is it going to be somebody who is excellent? I keep going back to pattern recognition. I don't know, it's in my head now, but different skills.
If you're an Olympic coach, you work with the team members that you have and you rearrange them and put them together in a way that's going to allow you to produce the better result for the whole team.
For the whole team,
Why don't we do that?
I was speaking with a gentleman actually who was a soccer coach and at a high level. And he was talking about, now I'm not big into soccer, but years ago in one of the World Cups, was it one of the like amazing football players from
Maradona,
like
Pele,
but I think it's more in modern times.
Ronaldo.
He was a bit older, but like he just didn't have the legs that he had when he was younger, but he could still keep kicking goals. So they set up that whole World Cup team to support him.
There you go.
To get the ball to him so he could put in the net.
Could have been Maradona, actually.
Maybe. Yeah, I think I feel like it might be, but I do forget some things sometimes. So like you said,
wouldn't that be so cool?
For everybody, set everyone up for success. Because I don't think that anyone gets out of bed in the morning to go to work to do a bad job.
No. And we all go to work to collaborate with our team. That's why we do it. So why not do that in the best way we can?
Yeah.
And just a quick question before we kind of wrap up, because I know you've got to jump on the stage. What about work from home and this hybrid style of working arrangement? Does that negatively or positively affect neurodivergence?
No, it's very good for us. Yeah. And I think, COVID was a blessing for neurodivergent individuals. Yeah. Yeah. And I think a lot of people might have discovered that they were secretly, I think I was an extroverted introvert.
Yep.
By being pulled out of that busyness and taken away from the noise, that constant stimulation. It gave your regulation, your nervous system, a chance to relax and just slow back down again. So now to be plucked out of it, and the mandatory days in the office is really hard, but I am very much for, we can't be in silos either. We do need to be part of a team, because that's a big thing about being on the online calls, but make it purposeful. Where every Wednesday we're in the office, and then maybe one or other 2 days as you can. Then that's one day mandatory, great.
Yeah.
Everybody's going to be coming in at different levels of their abilities and skills. And also, let's not forget that we did leverage a lot of overseas workers, and we did during the COVID. So it's like, well, they don't have to go in. So we have a fairness kind of a bias. Neurodivergent people were like, well, that's not fair because we want the same treatment for everyone. And if everyone's getting the same treatment, great. And that goes for us too. We're like, don't give us special treatment. We're not special cases.
Yes.
We just want everything to be fair across the board. And if it's not, we'll see it and we'll call it out. And then,
Ashling, it's been absolutely fantastic. But before you go, please tell everybody a bit more about how you work and how people can find you and connect with you.
Okay, well, I guess the best place is online because you're on Instagram also and LinkedIn. I'm Ashling Smith, Neuro Empowerment. So, I'm in the middle of building a plethora of e-learning programs because I'm very lucky and blessed that I am quite busy. I'm doing a lot of keynote speaking at events and conferences, and it's creating awareness. You can tell the passion. It means so much to me to share this information. And then from this, then also I run workplace trainings online and in-house. So I do both because hybrid working, right?
Australia-wide or worldwide?
Yeah, worldwide actually. Correct. I have some clients in Ireland because I'm Irish and I've had a few inquiries from the US as well. Amazing. So I guess they like the accent maybe. But I'm very blessed in that regard. But like obviously mostly Australia because I know the laws here. I know the legalities and stuff but every training is different because I make it for that company.
Yes.
Because I want to recognize. And for the culture.
Every country is a bit different as well.
But every company has its own culture. Right. And it's like, how do you want your culture to be nurtured in this? And how do you want this to be included in? And we put it all together and like with the values and we connect all the dots. So it's this beautiful, seamless, like supportive. Yeah.
Love it. Well, Ashling, thank you so much for doing this before you jump on stage. It's been fascinating. And I think we're definitely going to get you back to further dive into this because there's so many more questions. This was just the tip of the iceberg. But I've learned so much. It's been fascinating. And I hope the listeners and the viewers really, really get a lot out of this. And it prompts more awareness and change in this respect because I think it's really important.
Yeah.
Rather than labeling everybody, why don't we just try and focus on each other's strengths rather than dividing?
Yeah.
I think it's brilliant.
Yeah, exactly.
Anything you'd like to leave us with before we finish?
I love this quote by Dr. Wayne Dyer.
I love Dr. Wayne Dyer.
When we change the way we look at things, the things we look at change. So we might be looking at things too narrow a lens. Mm-hmm. Maybe we just take a different perspective and we might see something new. Yeah.
We don't know what we don't know. I love that one.
No, we don't.
We really don't.
No.
Love it.
So thank you for having me. It's been a blast. You've warmed me up now. So ready, fired up and ready to go.
Amazing on stage. So well done.
Much.
Congratulations. Have fun.
I will. And
everybody out there, thank you so much for listening. We'll see you very, very soon for our next episode. And make sure you reach out to Ashling, check out her stuff, check out what she does because she's fantastic. See you soon for our next episode of Soul Searching, the Soul Recruitment Podcast. Bye for now. Thanks again for joining me for another episode of Soul Searching, the Soul Recruitment Podcast. If you'd like to join me as a guest on the show, I would be delighted to collaborate. Feel free to buzz me on 0414 659 800 or email me on darren@soulrecruitment.com.au. I'm always on the lookout for great guests who can share their stories and expertise with my community. But for now, though, have a fantastic day and I'll see you next time.